Among all superheroes, Spiderman is the most famous. In a study, Spiderman ranked first in the most countries in terms of popularity.
I want Spider-Man!
From kids to adults, everyone knows Spider-Man, and we all know his story. Peter Parker was bitten by a spider and then gained superpowers, like being able to shoot spider webs from his hand. I want to discuss how strong that web is, only 2mm thick, and it can hold a bare body hanging. You can click the video above. He starts shooting web. Peter Parker can also crawl on walls like Gecko. You have to know that out there. There are tons of scientific journals researching geckos because geckos have adhesive technology that humans don't have, which allow them to stick to any surface. No matter if the surface is smooth, rough, clean, or dirty, geckos can do it with no problem. The funny thing is, gecko feet aren't sticky at all. This is what makes scientists curious. How can geckos do this? And they study it not only from the biological side, but also from chemistry, physics, and even mathematics. The research results on geckos allow scientists to create adhesive that mimic gecko technology. This adhesive is super strong. It can hold walls up to dozens of kilos, but it's also easy to remove. They even created robots that can crawl on walls like geckos. Even NASA uses it to move objects in space. The question is, can this technology be applied to humans so they can crawl on walls like Spider-Man? The answer is both yes and no. Because later, I'll show that there is research telling that size of the body capable of crawling on walls is limited to gecko size. Okay guys, before we talk about gecko technology, first, let's agree that although the gecko family is quite large and may have different names, to make it easier, let's just call them all gecko. Second, you should note that wall crawling is not only limited to gecko, spiders can do it too. That's what inspired the Spider-Man movie. And almost all insects, including ants, can crawl on walls. But when it comes to wall crawling, geckos are the champion. So, how can gecko crawl on walls? If you think gecko's secret, some kind of glue or Velcro-like fabric adhesive, you're wrong. Geckos don't do it that way. Geckos can crawl on walls using a force in physics and chemistry called the van der Waals force.
Van der Waals force. The position of the electrons inside an atom or molecule create a polarity, an electric field with a positive and negative pole. This induces a matching polarity in other atoms or molecules close by. The result is a temporary adhesive force between them.
Sounds complicated, but the point is that every molecule can have a pole. You can imagine it like a magnet that has a north and south pole, so molecules can attract or repel like magnet depending on the distance. Geckos can feel that on all surfaces with their feet and stick to them. But what you should know here is that van der Waals force are very weak and only exist at the atomic or molecular scale, which is why humans can feel them because the effect is too small. So why can geckos feel them? The answer is nanotechnology.
Gecko's foot has nanostructures that allow it to stick to almost any surface through hydrogen bonding.
Gecko feet are an example of natural nanotechnology. So if the previous video discussed man-made nanotechnology, nature had it long before humans ever thought of it. In fact, we learn from them.
This is the reason why I love biology though. Biology is self-assembling nanotechnology with a built-in programming language. No other nanotechnology has this.
Yesterday, I already discussed that nanotechnology is technology measured in nanometers. Now take a look under an electron microscope. You can see gecko feet like this. It's so fine hair on the surface. When zoom in again, the hairs look like stalks. The stalks are called setae. In just 1 square millimeter, there are about 14,000 of these stalks. Not only that, when you zoom in further, each stalk has even smaller branches called spatulae. The number of spatulae in each stalk can reach up to 1,000 branches. Look closely how tiny these spatulae are, only about 100 nanometers, while human hair is about 100,000 nanometers thick. This means a strand of human hair is equal size to 1,000 of the hair on a gecko's foot. With spatulae tip that are nanometer in size, geckos can sense van der Waals force at a molecular scale. And remember, there are billions of these hairs. So, even though the van der Waals force is very small, with billions of them, a gecko's foot can stick firmly like a magnet. But, interestingly, even if we pluck the hair of gecko, that doesn't mean we can use them to stick to things, because it turned out gecko also have technique.
That in order to do this, you'd have to measure the force of a single hair. She took one of those tiny little hairs and put it onto a probe. And then she began pushing it into the metal beam. Now she was very frustrated. For months, it didn't stick. But she figured out she had to orient it just like the gecko grabs on. And then it worked. And there's the little split ends grabbing the beam in that little window. And then she did something magical. For the first time ever, she measured the force of a single gecko hair that allowed her to discover a completely new way to stick to something. Something no human has ever known before.
So gecko are chemists. physicist, biologist, nanotechnology expert, and stunt performer all in one. From this Gecko research, scientists eventually managed to create an adhesive material similar to Gecko's food. It sticks very strongly, but it can also easily remove.
So it's pretty heavy, careful. So we're going to attach it right on there. And you can see it holds just fine. Who wants to pull off the adhesive? Let's come on over. Why don't you grab the edge and just pull it towards me. It comes off very easily.
Just like Gecko feet, this adhesive material is fine hair at the nanometer scale. They are designed in life using nanotechnology. These fine hairs can stick to the van der Waals force.
So this is our design. This is 2,000 times the real scale. So if you just come into contact, this is the not sticky state. Not much van der Waals forces, doesn't stick. If you apply a shear load, all of a sudden, high real area of contact, lots of van der Waals forces, you stick.
In 2015, this adhesive technology was taken by NASA into space to be tested in zero gravity for the first time. NASA needed this adhesive to remove floating objects in space, like satellite parts that they needed to repair. Stanford University, which pioneered this Gecko adhesive technology, even created a robot that looked like Gecko called Sticky Bot. And now, Stanford is working with NASA to develop a robot called Gecko Gripper. This robot is designed to work in a vacuum and stick to the sides of spacecraft for repair and rescue mission.
We can have robots climb for inspection or for surveillance. Also, since they work in a vacuum, we can use them out in space. So we can have robots that do space exploration or even cling to the side of the space shuttle.
Now, the question is, can this technology also be applied to humans so they can crawl on walls like Spiderman? One Stanford researcher tested it by climbing a building. If it worked, it was far that we imagined Spiderman doing. The soles on his hand and feet had to be made very wide, but the person feels targeted and could only climb for 3 meters. It really seemed like we have to give up on the dream of bringing Spiderman into the real world, because this is also related to research that says creatures that can crawl on walls are limited to Gecko size. Why? To understand this, you need to know what allometry is. Allometry is the science that studies the relationship between body size and body shape. The conclusion is interesting, that every body posture of living thing is already proportional according to its size. If its body is enlarged beyond its standard size, yet its body becomes unproportional, and it will cause many problems. In allometry, it states that almost all body organs are allometric, meaning that their growth ratio are not the same in every part with it enlarged. I will take an example from the movie Ant-Man. There's a scene where an ant grows as big as a dog. You might think there's nothing wrong with that, but not according to allometry. The legs will be even bigger than the current body size. Otherwise, the leg wouldn't be able to support the weight of its body, because bones are one of the organs that are allometric, created to suit body weight. The problem is, if the legs are bigger, they will no longer be proportional and will hinder movement.
That's a messed up looking dog.
What about Ant-Man himself? Same thing. I haven't even discussed growing or shrinking because of the BIM particle. That's for another video. But okay, let's assume Ant-Man can grow and shrink. According to allometry, this will cause a problem. One of which is that he won't be able to breathe, because his lungs also shrink, it won't be able to meet the need of this metabolism. Don't assume ant and all small animals have lungs like humans. They have different respiratory systems designed according to their body size. According to Marvel, that's the function of Ant-Man helmet. When he transforms, he always has to wear the helmet. Besides communicating with ants, the helmet also helps him breathe. That's why Dr. Pym forbade him from growing beyond a certain limit, because his body metabolism would be greatly affected.
Oh no, he's too big.
I'm just gonna go to sleep now for 5 minutes. I just need 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Now, let's go back to Spiderman issue. This journey studied 225 species of animals that can crawl on walls, from the smallest insect to geckos. Results show that the size of their feet demonstrates positive, even extreme allometry, meaning the bigger the creature, the bigger the adhesive surface area on their feet. For example, ants only need 0.09% of their body surface for rotation, while geckos need 4.3%, while humans will need 40% of their body surface to adhesive in order to crawl like gecko. The problem is, with a surface that wide, humans wouldn't be able to move as easily as a gecko. DARPA, the US Department of Defense, once tested similar technology to climb a building. Look at how wide the adhesive surface is. They managed to climb the building to the top in almost an hour. But if compared to Gecko, you can't do it under a minute. So, forget your imagination of climbing like Spiderman. Better just take the stairs.
Take the stairs.
Yeah. Stop.